For today's deck testing video, I wanted to do something that was going to showcase the mana system a little bit more than normal, simply because the system itself is very versatile and yet also complex, and there are 6 colors in the game, and theoretically you can run as many of them as you want. So I thought I would take a spin on something that's, like a mid-rangey tricolor deck. The idea here is that you're running a lot of cards that only have 1 or 2 gems in order to activate them, and far more cards that require just 1 gem. So as you're kind of looking through here, the only ones that you're dipping in to 2 gems for are the ones that are incredibly powerful. So up in the blue, it's totally worth it in my opinion for Kara and Magnus, because they're high powered cards, but the rest is just relatively good stuff in blue that are 1 gem. Similarly in orange has a lot of really powerful cards that require 2 gems, but some pretty good stuff that only require 1 orange gem. And then when you go to 2 here, it's for things like Peri at the Gates, which is just a draw machine, and then Temptation. And then down in purple, it's just all single gem purple cards. So again, this is mostly just to kind of show off the system. I don't necessarily think that the list that I have built here has high ladder win potential. I don't think this is necessarily like a super competitively viable list, but it's good enough, and I think it'll do a good job of showcasing the mana system and that you can do a bunch of stuff. But this is the deck testing format. It is a deck testing video after all, so we're gonna go do what I normally do with these. We're gonna go play 2 games, win or lose, on the ladder, and we always hope for more wins than losses, but it's entirely possible this could just be an 0-2 experience, and that's also okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not what we're looking for, but it's not the end of the world. And we are up against a very interesting opponent.
All right ahead.
Burn and blue, but they sent an enchantment away, and we can already notice right away that they are playing with the Rainbow's End here, so we're gonna go contest their Freaky Frecky. Now they can run this away from us if they want. If they want to spend their mana on Impel and use the Swift, they could move this away and get an attack in. Or they could just double move. That's fine too. Means we have to chase it.
Let's do this.
That is fair enough. That is reasonable. So I think what we are going to do here, there's a couple of different ways that we could attack this, quite literally. I think we're going to end up playing Ghost in the System over Ghul, at least here in the moment. So Ronin here is what's going to end up being our burn choice. The question here is that if we don't play Ghost in the System or Ghul, what else could we do, right? So we could use our infuse to just trade into this. It's also a reasonable consideration. But knowing that next turn we likely want to develop Shinobi of the Wind, and then that could potentially, ping this, and knowing that this is kind of trapped over here as of right now, I think I like Ghost in the System more. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And we're choosing the card that goes back on top of their deck, so we want to give them the worm. Not the Road Queen, not the card that's gonna buff these even more. And yeah, at this point I think it's pretty safe to say that this is a blue heavy Valkyrie list. And the Speedway comes down, so they get a trade. Even though we were looking for a value trade, we were okay with giving this value trade up because we wanted to get our own over there. It turns out that's just not allowed around these parts. So now, just so that we can get access to all of our colors, we're gonna go ahead and do that, and we're gonna hide this here. Now I suspect they're gonna throw something in front of this. There's not a lot we can do about that, unfortunately, and we're also gonna take a fair amount of damage. But I think that this is still the right play at 3 here. Our other option was we could have played, if we burned another orange card, a combination of recruits and so forth. But we did not. So we kind of baited something over there. We're going to end up just moving this with teleport, which is also entirely fine. We're just trying to figure out what else do we want to do this turn. And it's looking like, if I had to guess, it's looking like our best choice is actually to burn at least an orange card. One, because it opens up Peri, but also because we want to play, I think, multiple orange 1-drops. And then our next choice is playing either Ice Spike or something to that effect. I really like the idea of Ice Spike. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and move this over here. We're going to Ice Spike this. And then I really like the idea of getting this recruit down. Yes, they have the overrun. And we'll go ahead and burn this and get one of these in front of this as well. So yeah, they have the overrun. We're going to be taking some damage. Again, there's not a lot that we can really do about that. But getting some damage on this and then potentially blocking with something like Aimless Vessel the following turn, I think helps. Because Vessel would not be enough to trade with that without dealing some damage to it first. Oh, and they burned to go up to 5. Interesting choice. Alright, well that is unfortunate for us because this is a big worm. And I am not a big fan of being stuck taking 8 damage, and yet again there's not a ton of options here. There's just not a ton of options. I mean, we know that we need to block this.
System stable.
I mean, we just know that that needs to be a thing. We're trying so hard to get this ninja to push through, and we're struggling greatly. This can at least help us soak 1 damage. I'm actually semi-tempted to just leave the ninja entirely, but I think we still value the versatility. So this will go here. This will go here. Yes, again, we know we're going to take the rollover damage. We're just trying to preserve our health total. The overrun has been a pretty significant issue this game, both from this and from the speedway. We just have not had a great way to deal with it. We have some options in the deck, but
Let's do this.
all right. That did not help us. That did not help us at all, actually. Our only out, I believe, is legitimately to play Peri at the gates and find Ice Spike. Because there's 1 left in the deck, and that would at least stun the worm. Any other scenario, and we're going to be taking overrun damage. We could... I mean, we have other options, right? Like, we could potentially play something like Temptation, I suppose. But we would have to draw it and have enough mana to play that, and we simply do not. So literally, Ice Spike is the only out left in the deck, and it's required on us finding it with this Peri. That is not an Ice Spike. Neither of these are Ice Spike either. So sadly, while we can do this, and while we can technically move this over, we are just stuck, it would seem. And that's going to be game. So we're going to drop the first game, and I mean, let's be honest, we just dropped it to overrun. We had no answer whatsoever for the overrun. We really needed to find an Ice Spike. As I said, there are... We'll go ahead and requeue. There are answers in the deck, but... Ugh. So this does kind of highlight some of the perils that exist with, I think, the Tricolor builds right now. And that's just that some of the more powerful cards require 2 or more gems. And as such, going to 3 colors, it limits the amount of like really powerful stuff that you can jam in. I will say that I think that if I was going to truly try to build something competitively viable, and not just kind of off the cuff here for a video, that was going to run 3 colors, I do think control, or at least late game based decks, would be the better way to do it. And the reason for that is because if your cards are kind of based around stalling, then the longer the game goes and the more you stall, the more likely you are to shore up your mana base to play those powerful cards, right? So I do think that's probably the best way to go. Now, it looks like, because this is Crimson Rush here, yeah, and there's no profile, that we got paired up against the AI, which can sometimes happen when you are playing ranked. It does your best to make you against opponents, but since we're in the very early days of open beta here, every now and then it will not be able to find you somebody, and as long as you have the right check boxes checked, and I do, because I don't like waiting, it will sometimes throw you at the AI, and if you win those matches, then you just get decreased rewards. So here we'll throw back a thane. Yeah, let's throw back the thane. Let's go ahead and get this attack in, and let's actually go with a lore broker.
Looking for information.
I want to see what their hand is. We could contest this, but anything we throw here is going to be on a delay anyway, because this has agile and the AI is always just going to go around you. So I'd much rather wait, because next turn, unless we draw something drastically different, we know that our play of choice will be Shinobi of Smoke, and we'd like to set up a trade where we get value. So I think doing that makes the most sense. Well, okay, maybe it's not going to be Smoke, maybe it'll be Wind, but it will be one of these ninjas. But we're going to start by seeing their hands. They got a Tooth, some more agile options, more hysterical strength, and alacrity. So we got some damage coming our way. And so now we're gonna go ahead and ship this back. I think just for general purposes, we might actually be better off just developing Shinobi of Wind. Because this one is positional, and we know that they're going to play at least one more minion that has a low health total. And there's a second one. But this one is not necessarily positional, whereas this one is. In other words, what I mean is this one, in order for you to get the benefit of not taking retaliatory damage, it has to be where it can jump and then make those trades. Whereas this one, it can deal its 2 damage to anything on the board. So if they had tried to hide over here or done something tricky, then this, I think, just gives us more flexibility. And so we're going to go ahead and Ice Spike this one. Get this damage in that allows us to hit this one. Move these toward damaging our opponent as well. And we're going to end up developing this recruit. I'm just trying to decide if we want to burn another card, because ideally we'd like to be able to play this back alley Ronin at some point next turn. So even though we don't need the second blue, I think we're going to go ahead and burn the Thane in this position.
Do we have a mission?
And so that's going to be a nice easy turn for us, as they have not drawn any minions. And in fact, we're 1 off of lethal. We have 7 on board. This will deal an extra 2. which is 9, and then the infuse here represents 1 more. But we can't quite get there, so... Now, we deny them from drawing an extra card if we use the infuse. Playing a powered up back Alley Ronin seems really, really good here. But I actually want to deny them drawing an extra card. So we're going to go ahead and do that as well. And then in this situation here, I think we burn this just so that we can also develop the ifreet. And I guess we'll take the one that was a resource engine. I mean, let's be honest, this is over. We've beaten the AI handily at this point. It's very nice when your opponent does not play massive creatures with overrun. Because that was basically our problem in the first game. And that is it. I mean, we can play the big Dargon, but it's mostly just a BM on the AI. So that's it. That's 2 games, win or lose. A little bit disappointing that the second game wasn't against a real boy. Oh, Pinocchio. But the point is I wanted to show that you can certainly build decks with, you know, more than just 2 colors. As I said, technically the system has no limits. You can play a 6-color deck if you want, but there are some potential pitfalls that you'll run into while trying to go more than 2 colors, so keep that in mind. Hopefully this at least kind of gets your brain rolling, gets you thinking about things, and hopefully you enjoyed the content. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll be watching more videos in the future.